very helpful for you. So I'm going to be sharing my screen in the next few minutes so that we can start discussion. Yeah, there will be times when I would like us to also share and share our experiences along the line. So, but what we'll do is that once I ask for that, please you just use your virtual hands so that I can now allow you to mute yourself and then share. So let me just quickly check to share my screen. No, not yet. Okay, no, just give me a few minutes while I get
Also,
my
give me a
slides ready.
couple of minutes while I.
All right. Okay, so while we are waiting for that, let's start with a simple discussion because we are looking at the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas, and I don't know if there's anyone that work directly with this set of people, especially teenagers. We know what the world is today. We know the different challenges we have working with this set of people. Sometimes it seems like, this set of people are so difficult to work with. The challenges are so much, especially for those that probably work in the public sector, and you have a lot of these teenagers in your class, and you're like, God, how am I going to get through these guys? And for me, I've had the experience of working with a lot of teenagers, and I'm going to be sharing from some of my experiences that I believe will work because, of course, something that I've worked for over 2 decades, I'm sure that it's tried and tested. And of course, based on some researches that also support some of these things that I'll be sharing, I'm very sure that it will be very useful for you in your different workspace. So I would like us to, first of all, share our experiences. And this is the question. While you were a teenager, who were you? As in, what was your behavior like? Sometimes we complain about the challenges of today, but let's just do a flashback to when we were also teenagers. What was your behavior like? And not just restricting it to yourself. Let's also think about who our friends were, your classmates, while you were teenagers. What were the challenges? What were the things that were happening in those days, in the time that you are or you were a teenager? So I would like some of us to share. If you want to, you can just raise your hands, or and then you unmute yourself to share who as in your experience as a teenager. Just quickly, briefly, anybody want to share? Who are you as a teenager? When you were a teenager, how would you describe yourself? How would you describe your behavior while you were a teenager? Is anyone sharing? Okay, maybe I should okay. Miss Jumoke Olani, are you sharing? Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, thank
Um, I just want, when I was a teenager, I
you.
was playful though, but at the
Okay.
same time, I had this focus. Like I always, take my books and study and all that. It's like knowing when it is time to read, when it is time to, I've been playing too much, oh, I don't want to fail, that kind of a thing. And there was this kind of a competition amongst us,
Yeah.
those that were my friends in the school then. Everybody were like, who wants to be I'm the highest in physics. Oh, I will beat you in chemistry, all those kind of. So it was healthy competition, and that gave us, what will motivation to even
Mm.
perform better and all that.
All right, fantastic. May I ask as well, did you have some classmates that were quite challenging that you knew as
Yes.
in, okay, so can you give us example of some of those behaviors that were they exhibited in those days?
Well, some of my classmates, they were like, some of them were already exposed to so many things that,
Hmm.
I was still ignorant of and all that. And some didn't really take the academic serious, because
All
it's
right.
only when they're in school that they tend to read. When they get home, they will play or maybe go to their mother's shop or maybe, get to do one or two things. But, surprisingly, those of us that were very, very studious and all that, we turned out to be academician and all that. I know some of my friends now that maybe some of them are lecturers in the university and all that. But this other set of people, they turned out to be very smart. It's like the street sense was there. And so,
Wow.
they are doing well in their businesses and all that, even though some of them didn't end up going to the higher institution and all that.
Oh,
But,
fantastic.
mm,
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing, man. I really appreciate that.
mm,
Any other person
mm.
want to share who you were as a teenager and all your friends, your classmates? What were the challenges? What were the things that you did in those days? Don't, this is a safe place. You can be very vulnerable. Don't all right,
Okay.
okay, okay.
Yeah, let me share a bit. Well, for me as a person, well, I think I was at least to an extent serious with my studies because, of course, I know where I'm coming from. I mean, going home with a bad result was not really a good experience, basically. So, of course, I had no option than to be serious with my studies. At least there were times I fell short, but then, at least when I fell short, I felt bad about it. But then, well, let me paint a certain scenario. I think we were in SS3 or SS2 then, and then we were to write biology exam, mock exam. Yes, SS3 biology mock exam, and then we had students who didn't like that subject, and immediately that exam started, all they did was take their pencil and they started making noise on the table like they were drawing and making dots. You know, there's a lot of drawing and dotting in biology when you draw cells, all of these things. They were intentionally making noise with that pencil. And some of them, for a paper that should last about 1.5 hours, 2 hours, some of them spent 10 minutes and submitted their paper. So then, even back in school, then we had students who exhibited that unseriousness towards their academics. But then, just like the former speaker said, I think somehow there was still a desire to be successful, maybe not in a subject like biology. They still had a subject that they loved and they gave their best to, basically.
All right.
So that was my own experience as a student.
All right. All right. Not to waste too much of our time, I am very sure that in those days, I could remember we had students, or is there anybody who wants, okay, as we're going, if you want to, please just raise your virtual hand and I will allow you to speak. We have students in those days too. I remember students that would stand up to challenge teachers. I remember students that would attempt to beat up teachers. I don't know if you have had, if you have ever experienced that in any of your schools in those days. Me, I've seen that happen in schools, and I've seen that happen even in our own days. Such behavior were exhibited by teenagers and all of that, and that is to let us know that some of these things are just normal human challenges. Sometimes we may be tempted to judge this generation and say, oh, this generation is this bad and all of that. But the truth is that those behavior were exhibited back in the days because they are generally human behavior, human challenges, human problems. It's not specific to a particular generation. It's something that we have always seen. There were students in those days that were into drugs. There were students in those days that were smoking. There were students in those days that were doing all of those things that we also complain about today. So it's not peculiar to a generation. So we should know that these are generally human behavior. Another question I want to ask is this. As a teenager, how were you handled by your parents, by your teachers, and would you say you love the way you were handled? That's another question that I want us to think about and probably discuss. How were you handled as a teenager? Your teachers, your parents, and would you say that you were 100% okay with the way you were handled? Yeah. Sophia, you can please unmute and talk.
Yeah. Good afternoon.
Good
So
afternoon.
for me, right, for my parents, I had issues with them because they did not actually believe that I was genuinely smart and intelligent in class. So they felt like I was spying, and I don't know. I don't really blame them at first because I was living with my grandma at first. So I was going to like a very local school. So my school was changed and I became last position the first time I joined the new school. But my teenage life in school was, as the first half of it was trying to prove to my parents that I was actually like doing all right. In fact, I was the nuisance in my class based on
Wow.
the one always questioning teachers, the one always distributing answers. You understand? And I was trying to help them realize that I was actually that good. I think when I drew the mark was when I presented my results. I think I came second, and my father was like, the person that took first, they have two head. I was like, if I ever show you my results again, you understand? And that was it. The only time I only get to like show my parents my results then was when I needed when I needed favor or something, just like be on the good side of them. But since then, I just stopped focusing on my parents and just started making my life in school like more fun of friends and so on. So yeah.
All right, great. So I could see somebody in the chat session saying it was handled with iron hand, and well, that maybe that paid off over time, but there were some things that could have been done better. Well, I quite agree. I was sharing with a group of teachers, and it was very, very touching when you heard stories of people and the way they claim they were handled as teenagers and how it still affected them or is still affecting them to date. And I mean to date, even now that they are teachers or they are educators as well, they still feel that those things were still affecting them. One of them was saying to me that growing up then, it was like, okay, when when your parents come to school and tell teachers, help me supervise him or help me ensure that he's doing his work, and then the teacher will frustrate your life and make you feel like you are not good enough. Every little mistake was like they would just pounce on you and all of that, and those things restricted them from building up a proper social skill. It hindered their for me, for example, growing up was something like that where you barely had that opportunity to interact with people, and for a long time it affected my social skill. It was difficult for me to have conversations with people. It was difficult for me to have to share time with friends. I remember when I made intentional steps to begin to change this. I remember there were times that I wanted to change it, and I would want to visit a friend. I would literally write my conversations down because I could not keep a conversation. So I would literally sit down and say, okay, probably I will say this, then the person will reply with this, and this is what I will say. That was what I was doing so that I could get out of that particular behavior and all of that. So, I said all this and I started with this so that we can just do a flashback, and it will help us to begin to relate to what we are experiencing in our different classes right now. I want to know, are there people that work directly with teenagers here? If you do, just put it in the chat box or just do it by raising of your hands. You work directly with teenagers, or you work with children within the ages of let's say from 10 above, from 10 above. All right, so that will help me to know. Yeah, K Dance does. Yeah, Mr. Zolani Olani does. So good. It's a good and for as many that will watch. The reason why I'm doing this is because there are certain things that will work for children in the early years and all of that. I could do a training on that, but this is what I'm looking at now because I know this is where a lot of teachers have challenges, especially understanding and working with teenagers. I've heard people talk about, oh, these teenagers, I don't even know how to handle them. I don't even know what to do with them. And for me, it's something that I'm passionate about. It's something that I do a lot. And I believe that this session will help us to understand even better with them. Now, let me quickly go ahead into other things. Now, the Gen Z that we're talking about, who are the Gen Zs? The Gen Zs are those people that are born in between the year 1995 to 2010. Okay, and the Gen Alphas are born between the 2010 to the mid 2020s. And you know this set of students that we are talking about. You have them in your classes. Of course, somebody that is born between 1995 and 2010 should be in the secondary school right now or about to. And of course, the Gen Alphas are more in the primary school. So, and we have had several generations over generation. If you look at the screen and look at the chart now, where would you place yourself? I think most of us should be the millennials. Most of us should be in the millennial generation. Is there anybody in the Gen X or baby boomers here? All right. So now this is talking about the different generations that have been. But today I want to focus more on the Gen Zs and probably the Gen Alphas and look at what are the challenges, what are the peculiarities about this set of students, and how can we manage them better? How can we apply discipline that actually works? Because most of the time when we say, oh, discipline and class management, are we actually getting it right? And where does it begin from? Where should we start from? And that's what I want to share today. So when we look at the characteristics of the Gen Zs, we know that they are digital natives, right? They are very digital native. They are very fluent with technology. Of course, you see them, they know how to use their smartphones. They know how to decipher the smartphones and all of that. And imagine if I ask some of us now, when did you have or when did you get your first? Oh, okay. When did you get your first phone? Probably when you were in the university. But today, even a primary school child will be working with an iPhone and all of that. So this is their nature. This is what they are born into. They are born into technology. While we are learning technology, they are born into technology. They have short attention span, more so to the use of technology. And if we look at that in another light, we understand that the use of technology actually drives children or students to having very short attention span, because technology is always moving, as in fast movement. They can move from this side to another side, from this side to another side, which affects their brain. And then it becomes difficult for them to pay attention on one thing at a time. So they find it difficult to focus on one thing at a time. They want to do many things at a time. So you find them, they can't sit still. If you work with those in the primary school, they find it difficult to sit still. They want to move around. They want to go out. They want Okay, sorry, I think my network pulled me out. Let me go back to sharing. All right. Okay, I believe you can hear me clearly. Okay, let's go on. So these are the Gen Zs. These are their characteristics, right? They are social learner, like I said. They love visual learning. They want to see what you're teaching. They want to see the pictures. Even if they're not seeing the pictures, even the way you teach it, can they imagine what you are saying? Those are the things that they want to see. That they value personalization, individualization. They are motivated by the real world application of what they are learning. For them, that's why I don't know if you are being in class and you are teaching something and the child is asking you, why are we learning this? What's the use of this? Especially if you are teaching mathematics and they are asking you, what's the meaning of the y, the x? Why are we learning it? Why are we learning algebra? What's the real use of it? And they tend to lock out or they are demotivated when they don't know the real use of what they are being taught or what they are learning. And that's why it's important for us as teachers to always be able to motivate them by the real use or the real world relevance of their learning. And then they love diversity, they love inclusion. So these are some of their characteristics that help them or that guides how they behave. And it's important that we understand this so that we can know how to relate with them. Because some of us have problems with them because we are not teaching the way they can learn. We cannot teach the way we were taught. We have to teach the way these children can learn. All right. And that is part of what affects our classroom management and the discipline that goes on in the classroom wherever we are teaching. As long as we are dealing with teenagers, we are dealing with the Gen Zs and with the Gen Alpha. It is something that must be intentional in the way we pass this information across to them. Now, let's move on. Now, knowing that these are the characteristics, and from the beginning, we had some questions which we discussed about what was it like in our own days. And that helps us to lay the foundation that there are some of these challenges that are generally human problems, human challenges. But in this day and time, certain things are emphasizing these things. Certain things are making this problem more prominent with our teenagers, with our Gen Zs, and with our Gen Alphas. Certain things are making this problem more prominent. And I'm going to look at some of these challenges because I want us to know where these Gen Zs and Gen Alphas are coming from so that we can know how to manage them. When you don't know what they are going through, sometimes we look at them from our own perspective. We judge them from our own time and from our own time, which is not their own time. Our own time is never their own time. We need to understand what is the challenges of their own time, which is totally different from our own time. For example, in your own days, I don't think there was DSTV in our own time when we were in school. So there was nothing to come back home to come and watch. TV starts by probably 4 p.m. when you will hear the shh, and then national anthem. After national anthem, then they start the program. That was the day. That was our days then. You barely had a phone. you didn't have a phone then. So the challenges are different. So we cannot judge based on our own time. We can't judge the current teenagers or the current Gen Z generation that we're working with based on our own time. Our challenges are different. Our challenges are different. Oh, of course, when you come back from school and there's nothing to watch, there's nothing, you go back to your books. That was the only way. So, but in these days, there are too many things that distract them. There are too many things that will challenge them. So, if we are having those challenges in our days, how much more in these days, in this day and time, when so many challenges are being faced by these teenagers, by these Gen Zs? But is it their fault? They didn't create some of these things. We created them. The millennials created this problem for them. So we can't judge them. We brought them into these challenges. So what are the challenges that we're talking about? Number one, in this day and time, number one challenge is that there is so much of digital pressure and social media anxiety. I thank God that Miss Sojibra, she's into digital citizenship and does a lot of training on digital, and I have been opportune to see a lot of materials from her, which has also helped me. Now, so there's a lot of pressure in the digital space affecting the current generation that we are working with. A lot of media anxiety that you never had in our own time, that we never experienced in our own time. Unlike previous generation, their world is saturated with a lot of platforms. How many of them are not on? You talk about Facebook, you talk about TikTok, you talk about Snapchat. In fact, there are so many other ones that you don't even know. Probably you can put some of them on the chat if you have. Yeah, there are so many other ones. There are games where they socialize as well, which we never had in our own days. And all of this thing is increasing stress, is reducing their ability to concentrate, is reducing the ability to focus. So you can never judge them based on the time that we are coming from. It is their time and the challenges are different. Okay, look at this now. Free Fire. I've never heard about that. Free Fire. These are platforms, so many platforms that they are being exposed to. And this is pressure for them. This is serious pressure for them. This is some of the things that is forming and affecting their behavior as well. So we need to understand where they are coming from. We need to understand. So somebody said, I saw this statistics somewhere. It said every minute 2.5 million pieces of content are shared on Facebook. Every single minute. Imagine the number of content that this generation is exposed to. Every minute, 300 times, 300,000 times. Twitter's users tweet nearly 300,000 times. Instagram users post nearly 220,000 new photos every single minute. Imagine the number of minutes in a day. Imagine the number of content that they are exposed to. Imagine the number of flashes that is being pushed into their head. And then we complain about their behavior. This is where they are coming from. This is what we are relating to. 3.2 billion images and 720 hours of video content are shared online every day. Every day. And I'm sure that this is increasing by the day. This is increasing by the day. Another challenge that they are faced with is mental health struggles. In our days, nobody talked about mental health. In fact, it wasn't a problem. Nobody, if you talk about mental health, the next thing is that you need some caning. That's what we're coming to. But why is this thing now becoming a major thing in our talk, in our institution? Because it's becoming more emphasized, whereas it's becoming more prominent with our teenagers. A lot of mental issues, anxiety disorder, attention deficiency, depression, and all of that. I happen to be I work also, I'm volunteer as a church, as a teenagers teacher in church. And last week, someone was talking to them and telling them to share some of the experiences or some of the things that they wish their parents knew about them. And I could see some of them writing that they are depressed. And I'm wondering, what are they depressed about? You can see that these are real problems that these teenagers are facing. These are real problems that this generation is facing. And we cannot push it away. We cannot wish it away. This is the real thing that is happening. I was talking with someone yesterday, and he was talking about how much drug use is being distributed in Lagos State today. A lot of people are now, these things are everywhere now. It is everywhere now. So it is something that we need to understand, that these are challenges that this generation is faced with. And we need to understand that. So if we judge based on where we are coming from, we will not get through this generation. We cannot manage this generation. We cannot adequately discipline this generation. I am talking today about discipline that works, and how do we manage our classroom? How do we work with these teenagers in such a way that we will not always have the conflict that we are having in classroom? I have seen a lot of conflict. I have seen a lot of teachers that do not have a way to get through to their teenagers. I have seen a lot of teachers that is always at loggerhead with their teenagers. They always believe that, oh, these teenagers are rude, but I believe that there's a way. There is a way to get through them. And it is, first of all, understanding the challenges that they are facing, understanding what could be the problem. Some of them are facing a lot of mental health struggles that we don't even know. There are some of them that I've worked with and have pushed me to go and research, and I found out, oh, so this is what this child has been going through, and we are judging, and we need to help. So this is another challenge, mental health struggle. Another one, let me quickly flip through these ones. So look at the statistics. It said, since the release of smartphone, mental health concerns have increased in children and young adults. Between 2005 and 2017, symptoms of depression increased by 53%. These have increased. This is between 2005 and 2017. Psychological distress by 71% increase. Suicidal thoughts grew by 47%. Children or child suicide rates increased by 150%. Imagine. 59% experience cyberbullying and online harassment. These are things that were not mentioned in our own days. This is a challenge that this current generation is being faced with. And we need to understand this. We need to understand this. How do we help them? How do we help them when we know where they are coming from? Another challenge, identity crisis. Because of the many things, many information that they are exposed to, they do not know who they are again. And once you lose your identity as a human, once you lose your identity, how do you want to behave right? When you don't even know who you are, how will you behave right? Because you don't even understand who you are. So it will become a problem for you to act right. It becomes a problem for you to act right. I'm telling you that a lot of the children that you are working with don't understand themselves again. They don't even understand the idea behind what the agenda is. I'm telling you, we may think that this is not a Nigerian problem. It is already here. A lot of them are confused. A lot of them are not sure about their sexual orientation again. I am telling you, even in churches, it's happening. It is happening in our schools. A lot of them are confused. The generation we are in now, yes, these things existed in those days too, but it was not blown out. It wasn't something that was seen everywhere, but today it is seen everywhere. This is a challenge that they are facing. They are not sure who they are again. They are struggling with knowing and understanding who they are. This is the challenge. Another one, uncertainty about their academic and future career. I hope you know that a lot of your children don't even understand where they are going. There's a lot of uncertainty in our world today. Their education, they are not even sure if it's needed. They are not even sure if they should be in school. In our days, there was no other way. The only way we know is school. In fact, your parents then will tell us that, oh, you better go to school so that you will not become a non-entity. But today, sorry, that's not the case. And they are seeing it. They are seeing it that really there are people that don't have to go to the purpose of school and they're making it. Whether they are making it in the right way or not, that is not their business. But the reality is showing them a different ball game. And then you come to school and they start acting up because they are not even sure of their future. They are not even sure. Of course, when COVID-19 came in, who was sure what was going to happen? It was as if, is this the end of physical classroom? Then we are back in the physical classroom. AI is everywhere. The future is blinked to them. They don't understand. They don't even know if what you are doing with them in the school is what they will need in the future. So these are challenges that they are being faced with. So when they act out, some of these actions are born out of these challenges. Some of these things that they exhibit is born out of the uncertainty, out of the frustration that they are going in between them, and nobody seems to understand. Nobody seems to come into terms with them to where they are and the challenges that they are being faced with. But because all they see is adults that are just judging them. So we need to understand where they are coming from and relate to these problems, which we never had in our own days. Another one that is really affecting them is breakdown of family system. I remember some years ago when we told some year 8 students to write a letter to their parents. Not that we want them to write the letter, we just said they should write a letter to their parents of what they wish their parents knew. And you can see a lot of dysfunctionality in their family system. But these students come back to school and we don't understand what is going on in their homes. A lot of dysfunctionality in their family system. In those days, most of the time, probably mommy is at home. Somebody is at home. A parent is always at home to attend to the children. But today, economic crisis, economic difficulties have pushed everybody out, and the children are left with probably their nannies who do not even understand how to raise a child. I was having a challenge recently with one of my students who was watching a particular movie that she was not supposed to watch. And then she came to school and displayed it. Now, it was from the family, it was from the home. Who was with her when she was watching it? A nanny that probably could not even exert authority over her. So these are issues that the generation we are working with is faced with. And we need to understand there's a lot of communication gap between parents and children today. So when they are acting out, please, it's sometimes because they are frustrated emotionally. They are frustrated emotionally. They felt that they are being neglected. All they have as friends today is their system. All they have as friends today is their screen. And that is going to affect them, or that is affecting them. It's affecting the way they act. It's affecting the way they behave. So when we see these actions, when we see this being exhibited in their behavior, we should understand that something is going on. There are challenges that these children are faced with. So how do we help them? How do we help them? How do we help them manage it? So there are so many other ones. You can see eating disorder. So there was one that I discovered. I don't know if you have heard about ODD. The second thing, the next thing I need to think about is how do I help? I won't judge you, because the next thing I'm asking is, how do I help? How do I help this child? And it was in the process of trying to help that I discovered that what he was actually going through was oppositional defiant disorder. And then I started studying how to help him. And thank God, before he left, I was able to at least help him. And he said something during his graduation. He wrote it. He said, "Thank you, Mr. Motesho, for not giving up on me. For not giving up on me," because he knew how much I did to help him. And that is what I want us to be able to come into terms with. How do we manage them? Knowing that this is what they are going through. And this is what I always tell to teachers. You may be the most stable adult in the present in the life of your students. You may be the most responsible adult present in the life of your students. You may be their saving grace if you would do it right. You may be that person that will champion them into a new leaf, into a new phase, if you do it right. Now, this is why it is important that our emotional intelligence as teachers is intact, because emotions and teaching are interwoven. We cannot separate emotion from learning. We cannot separate what is going on in the minds, in the hearts of the student that we teach from how they learn. Neuroscience tells us that the emotional centers of the brain are interwoven with the neurocortical areas involved in cognitive learning. And when a child that is trying to learn is caught up in a distressing emotion, the center for learning are temporarily hampered. In short, there is a direct link between emotion and learning. So if the emotions of our students are not in place and we are trying to teach them, the point is it will become a futile effort. And that's why we as teachers also must be emotionally intelligent. We must be emotionally in tune with our students. We must be able to catch what may be going through their minds and through their emotions when we teach them. Because this is one of the things that will exhibit some of the behavior that we see in the classroom. And if we cannot relate to it, it becomes a problem. And we also now loses our own emotion, and then there's conflict. There is conflict. So this is important. I won't stay on some of this slide because of time. So in classes, many emotions are at play. So many emotions are going on in your classes, such as some people don't feel like answering any questions because they are scared of being wrong. So you see those ones that are doing big boy in your class, they may just be scared of being wrong. That's why they will keep quiet. Not that they are big boys, they are scared. They are scared of being laughed at. They are scared of looking stupid. So this is emotion. And we need to understand that. Some of them have been told that they are not smart. Some of them are feeling isolated. Some of them are shy. There are different things. Some of them are nervous. Some of them are going through stuff. I had a student in my class then. This child will never speak in any class. He was so hardened that even if you are punishing or you are scolding him, he will just keep looking at you without saying a word. He will not say one thing, but will look at you eyeball to eyeball, but without moving. I was able to always get him to talk in my class. How did I do it? Some teachers ask me, how did I do it? Because I was able to relate to whatever he's going through. And I'm going to get there. We're going to get there. There are certain things that we always jump at and call, oh, this child is rude, this child is rude. But if we take a step back and emotionally connect to that child, we will know that this child is not exhibiting this behavior because of the fact that he intentionally wants to. There may be something wrong. There may be an underlying factor. And we need to understand that underlying factor. Now, let's move on because of time. Now, another thing we need to understand is, some of these emotions. So it follows that if you are responsible for assisting your students to learn, then you need to recognize these emotional components of teaching and learning exchange and to be able to work with it. You must be able to understand these emotional components and then be able to work with it. When they are mad, when they are cheerful, when they are worried, when they are joyful, when they are scared. Even some, in the place of excitement, they start misbehaving. in the place of, so you must understand what emotion is this child going through at this time, and how do I connect and relate to it? How do I connect and relate to it? Now, let's move on because of time. Now, according to Patricia Jennings and Mark Greenberg, they said teachers who possess social emotional competencies are able to work more effectively with challenging students. Teachers who possess social emotional competencies are able to work more effectively with challenging students. So, for example, instead of quickly resorting to punishment, we punish you. Oh, yeah, go and kneel down there. Go and do this one. Emotional competencies recognizes their student emotion first and have insight to what may be causing it, which then helps the teacher to respond with compassionate understanding when a student is acting out and redirect the student's behavior appropriately. Now, look at that. Your emotional competencies is key in helping to work with challenging students, in helping to manage that behavior, in helping to manage the students and work with them, such that you are not just so quick to punish. You are not just so quick to, say, go and kneel down there, I will report you, and all of that noise. You are able to first connect, know the emotion that is going on, connect to that emotion, know what may be the cause, and help to redirect that emotion so that the child can actually act right. Now, I won't stay too long on emotional intelligence because it's a training on its own. So I won't stay too long in this because I want to end with 7 key things that we need to begin to do for ourselves. So emotional intelligence is majorly your personal competencies, which is your number 1, your own self-awareness, your own self-regulation and motivation. That's your personal competency. When you say your self-awareness, how aware are you about your own emotion? Because somebody said that sometimes when we as adults are angry with our teenagers or are angry with our children, it's just that we are also doing our own emotional tantrums. We are angry, we resort into punishment because we are also confused and frustrated and we don't know what to do. But you being able to be aware of what is going on in your mind, in your mind at that time, and ability to be able to regulate yourself. Something happened few days ago. A child looked up and said, "It's not funny." And of course, sometimes we say, "Oh, that's rude. How will you tell me it's not funny?" But I sat back and I thought about it. What is rude in a child saying it's not funny? If we pay attention to that, what is actually wrong in a child saying that this is not funny? Because it may not be funny to the child. So there was actually nothing wrong in a child saying it's not funny. But when we respond that, "Oh, how will you tell me it's not funny? That's rude." We need to calm down. Like that boy said, "Mommy, be calming down." We need to be calming down. Let's be aware of what is going on in our own emotion. Let's be able to regulate it, and let's know our motivation. Then the second part of it is the social competencies, which is about your social skills, your empathy. Empathy is how can I get into the next person's shoe, right? And then social skill, how can I be able to understand the emotion of this person and be able to relate to that emotion, connect to that emotion, and how to interact with others. So that's what your emotional intelligence is. There's an assessment that you can use to test yourself to know how you stand with your emotion. How intelligent are you emotionally? And what aspect of these components do you need to work on as a person? But I won't stay on that. Probably on the chat, on the group, I may put this up later. All right. Now, the thing is, when you must understand what is low emotional intelligence. When you are aggressive as a teacher, when you are bossy and confrontational as a teacher, you are working on a low emotional intelligence. You are working on a low emotional intelligence. I always say, as a teacher, I love something that happened some very many years ago. It was one of these award show, and it was between if in our generation, if you know those musicians, DMX and Snoop Doggy. So they were to receive an award, and both of them, they always there's this thing about them and dogs, right? They were both back or something like that. So they were like, okay, who is the biggest dog? Is this Snoop Doggy or DMX? And okay, so they now say, okay, let's the business got big dogs don't bark. And that's drop mic. So sometimes big dogs don't need to bark. Big dogs don't need to bark. You don't need to be confrontational with your teenagers. You don't. I've seen videos where I see teachers exchanging blows with students, and I was asking, how did it get to that? How did it get to that? You are the responsible adult. No matter what the teenager does, you are the responsible adult. There's a way you could have avoided that. You don't need to be confrontational with your student. Once you are confrontational with your student, you are working on low emotional intelligence. Low emotional intelligence. Let's move on. So in teaching and learning, you must prepare for the emotional part of your teaching. Plan for the emotional part of your teaching, the emotional intelligent environment of your teaching, dealing with your learners' expectation and emotion. Okay, you must understand that these things are prone to happen, and then you must be able to interact and relate to them. I won't stay on this. Probably when I share this slide, you would go through it yourself. So empathy is, like I said, put yourself in their shoes, understand what they are going through, feel for them. And I love this 4 elements of empathy, that is, see their world. Just like we started, looking at their challenges, looking at what they are faced with, right? What they are faced with now, okay? Appreciate them as human beings. Don't judge them. Don't judge them. Understand their feelings and then communicate the understanding. Communicate the understanding. Let them be able to see that you understand what they are going through. Let them be able to connect to the fact that, oh, Mr. Montesho understands me. Oh, Mr. Cadence understands me. Ms. Esther understands me. And you communicate that understanding to them. Communicate that understanding to them. All right. Now let's move on. Now there are 7 things I will quickly share that helps with class management, or what I call class management principles and strategies. 7 things, and then I will round it up from here. Time is far spent. So let me quickly touch on the 7 things. Now, before we go into that, now, pay attention. That's number 1. Pay attention to your own mental wellness. I call it the law of self-preservation. If you are going to do this thing right, it starts with you. It starts with you. Somebody said, and I agree, that your greatest tool as a teacher is you. Your greatest tool is not your curriculum. Your greatest tool is not your learning instructional materials. Your greatest tool as a teacher is you. So you must pay attention to yourself first. Imagine a female teacher who had a serious issue with her husband in the morning. Midday to work, that same day, she misplaced her transport fare. Hence, she had to walk all the way to school, a journey that took about 1 hour, 30 minutes. She arrived late at school. The head of school, without asking her question, tell her off in front of other teachers with some of her students or pupils looking around. This is something that happened to a teacher. What kind of day do you think that teacher will have? A productive or an unproductive day? This kind of teacher, what kind of day do we think it will have? You can put it in the chat box. What do you think? What kind of day will this teacher have? After going through all of this, and then you get to the school and then you are shouted at and all of that. What kind of day do you think this teacher will have? Can I have some interaction? Yeah, terrible. Something very terrible day. But of course, if the teacher has not learned to manage his or her emotions, right? So that's why I said your mental health is the first thing that you must pay attention to. If you will do it right, you must know what is going on in my mind right now, and I cannot manage it. I remember when I was in school, there was something that happened with my physics teacher. My physics teacher came into class and was teaching us about rays, right? And at the point, I believe that my teacher had a very terrible day. And so, but we as students could not relate to that. We were just in class and enjoying the class. So she came and then she was teaching, and then she got to a place and was mentioning, she was naming a particular ray. You know, in physics now, you will explain. So she was explaining a particular, so she said, a ray OA, moving from So everybody was like, oh, ere OA, ere OA. So we started singing with ere OA. She got so frustrated and she cried out of class. She cried, literally cried out of class. That was when we understood that, hey, this teacher is going through some things. Because we were just having fun. So sometimes what is going through your mind will affect the way you interact, the way you respond to certain things. So please take care of your mental health. Before you can do this right, you must pay attention to your self-care. Pay attention to your self-care, physical care, medical care, eat healthy, regular sleep, exercise, do all of those things to keep yourself in the best mental health that you can be. Because if you are not in your best mental health, there's no way you will not act out. There's no way you will not get irritated by some of the little things that may not have even counted. There's no way you won't get irritated. Pay attention, have your family time, read books, and all of that. Don't let me wait. So emotional, explore your hobby. Cry if you need to. Go to your and laugh if you have to. Community engagement. That's why you need to belong to some community that will help you. Okay, connect to your spirituality and all of that. Take a break when you need to. Use your vacation right. You know, sometimes we overwork, and then we are tired. And when you are tired, you get irritated easily. So some things that will get you irritated is not because of that action, it's because of your mental state as well. So please take care of your mental health. You are the most important tool in this business. You are the most important tool. The next thing is that you develop positive perception. I call it the law of perception. How do you see your students? If you're a teacher that have already made up your mind that this student will misbehave, so that is exactly what you always get. Oh, this student, they always have problem with mathematics. That is exactly what you always get. Because your perception becomes your reality. What you perceive is what becomes your own reality. The perceiver, the attitude, the motive, the experience of the perceiver will determine how the perceiver will respond to things. There are certain things that we respond to that are not supposed to be, let me say, there are certain things that we react to that we are not supposed to have reacted to that way. It's because of the way we see things. So work on your perception. Work on your perception. We do not see things as they are. We see them as we are. It is as we are that we see those things. Someone says, by choosing your thoughts and selecting which emotional current you will release and which will reinforce, you determine the quality of your light. You determine the effect that you have on other people and the nature of the experiences of your life. So please, what is going on in your mind? What do you see? How do you see your student? Let me tell you one thing. For me, for the 20 years I've always worked with teenagers, with students, I always see my students behaving right. I never go into any class thinking that they will behave wrong. You know, teachers now gather around and say, those SS2 boys, they are very, why discussing those negativities? Focus on the positive. Why don't you think differently? Why don't you think otherwise that they will act right? You are in control of that energy. Your emotion, your energy, your core thoughts is what determines your emotions. And that emotion is what will determine your action. It determines how you act. How do you perceive your student? How can I go to class and the first thing I do is that I am holding that cane in my hand and knock it on the table that says, yes, I have arrived. I know you will misbehave, so I have a cane here. It's born out of the law of your perception. Born out of the law of your perception. So don't always be don't let that be the first thing that comes to your mind that they will misbehave. So you are prepared for misbehavior. Why prepare for misbehavior? Why don't you prepare for the right behavior? So your perception goes a long way to actually apply the right discipline and apply the right class management in your classroom. So let me go to the next one, which is number 3. And the one is what called the law of expectation. The law of expectation. Be positive with your expectations with your students. All of this I'm still talking about is still coming from the mindset. Let me tell you something. Most of the time, we are taught, okay, do this, do that. Before you do, you have to become. Before you can do, you have to become. And it comes down from your mindset. You know, sometimes you go to class and you are already, you already made up your mind that this they find it difficult to respond. Why didn't they always respond? I have never imagined my student not responding to me. I have never imagined it. I know that we'll have an awesome time. We'll have an awesome time. We'll have an interactive time. We'll have an engaging time. That is my expectation. That's what I believe. All of this is born out of your mindset. Before, look, class management, class discipline, before you start doing, it has to start from your mind. It has to start from your mind. The truth is that some teachers are self-defeated already. Let's be true to ourselves. We go to class with a mindset that is already defeated. So any small thing like this, your ego will just rise. Your ego will just rise, and then there's a conflict. There's a conflict. So the law of expectation says, expect high, expect positive things from your students. Expect that they will do right. Whatever you expect with confidence becomes your own self-fulfilling prophecy. What you get is not necessarily what you want. It is what you expect. What you get from your student, the reaction, the actions, the behavior you get from your student is not necessarily what you want. It is what you expect. When your students know that you expect the best from them, when your students know that you expect, that's why I said you must communicate your expectation. Communicate it with them. Encourage them and communicate this expectation with them. In fact, the Bible says that call those things that are not, even as though they were. All those things that are not for them. Oh, this child, I know this child that I was talking about that had this, he will fight any teacher. But one, I will call him. I said, I don't want to call his name. I will say to him, I know that you are going to be great in future. I know you are going to be this in the future. That encourages the child to act right. That he never had an issue with me. He never had an issue with me because I was expecting the best from him. This is all about your mindset. I'm not even talking about what you do first. Work on your mindset. It goes a long way to help you manage your students, to help you discipline them right. And the next thing, let's go to number 4, and then we'll round up. Now, create cultures. Now, we are going to what to do now. We have talked about our mindset. In fact, let me quickly say something about the law of expectation. A child, a 6-year-old child said something. I saw that quote somewhere. A 6-year-old child said something. He said, my teacher believed in me that I am smarter than I am. My teacher believed in me that I am smarter than I am. And I became smarter. It wasn't because it was just she became what the teacher believed she is. That is how much influence and power that you have over your students, that you have over your pupils. What is your expectation? Now, coming to what to do. Create culture, not rules. We talk a lot about class rules. I do not focus on the rules. I focus on the culture. I call it the law of acculturation. What do I mean by that? True change requires a focus on creating school or class culture that support academic, social, emotional, and character development of a child. Right? According to Maurice Elias, your culture tells you who you should be, not what you should do. Who you should be, not what you should do. Rules are just telling you what you should do. But how can you do without becoming? Why are we called human beings? Because we must become before we can do. But what we are doing is that we want to do before we become. Creating culture is like saying this is who we are in our class. This is who we are in our class. Rule says, do not jump, do not do this, do not do that, do not do this. But culture says, in our class, we are organized. Just imagine that simple change of language goes a long way to affect your children. Because you sell it to them as this is what makes us unique. This is what makes us like a cult. Let me use that word. This is what makes us unique. This is what makes us different. This is what distinguishes us from another. This is who we are. In our class, we are gentlemanly. In our class, we are gentle ladies. In our class, we are this. This is who we are, not what we do. Because when we become this, it affects what we do automatically. So focus on creating cultures in your classroom, not rules. And you do that together, engaging your students. There are 5 elements, according to Doug Limoff. They said there are 5 elements of classroom culture. The 5 elements of classroom culture starts with discipline. Discipline in this sense is not punishment, please. Discipline is training them to become that thing. This is who we are. How do I train them to become that thing? That's discipline. How do I fashion or organize lessons, organize social, emotional talk that will help them to become that? How do I engage them? Engage your students. Bring them to, let them understand that their voice is heard. Engage them, influence them. When you can do this first three, you will do less of management and less of control. If you can do the first three, discipline, engagement, and influence on your student, you will do less of controlling their behavior. You will do less of management or managing their behavior. The reason why you are doing a lot of control and management is because you have not done the training right, you are not engaged them right, and you are not influencing them right. What is the level of influence that you have over your students? Somebody said that there are 3 levels of leadership in teaching. One is that you are just a subject teacher. All they know about you is just the subject that you teach. Then you become a role model. Then you become the inspirational leader. That's the level that you should be aiming to get to. When your students look up to you and say, I want to become like you in future. I want to be like you in future. I have always said it, that one thing I want my students to be able to sell of me is that I am not just their geography teacher or mathematics teacher, but I'm their life teacher, because I teach them how to live life. And I've heard a lot of them say the same thing over and over again. Discipline, engagement, influence. First 3 key things that you must do to be able to create that culture in your classroom. The 15, connect to correct. The law of connection. Rules without relationship will lead to rebellion. Rules without relationship will lead to rebellion. So connect to your students. Outside your classroom is the best time to connect to your students. Talk on their level. Discuss the things that they discuss. Let them understand that you understand. I hope you understand. Let them know that you know. You understand? Come down to their level. Interact with them. Have a chat with them. It's not everything serious. You know, some teachers say, I'm paid to teach you, and that's why you don't need to like me. Please, they need to like you. Because kids don't learn from those that they don't like. According to, what's her name again? She's late now. I listen a lot to her. Kids don't learn from people that they do not like. Even if you go and study the 5 levels of leadership by what's his name again? John C. Maxwell. He talked about the first level is positional leadership. Positional leadership is just your authority, your rules, and all of that. That is not leadership in itself. Leadership begins when you begin to become a relational leader. A relational leader, which is the second level of leadership. Connect to your student. Connect to them. That is when they can care about what you know. People do not care about how much you know until they know how much you care. Until they know how much you care, which means that we must understand our student identity. Can you tell? One of the things I have tried to do is to understand my students, understand them, know what they can and what they cannot do. Understand them, go with them, go down to their level. Go down to their level. Connect to them before you can correct them. When they know that you are looking out for their good, they will never want to be in your black book. When you know that, oh, Mr. Omotosho is out for my good. Oh, Mr. Esther is out for my good. They will always want to work with you. I remember one of the days that one of my students who is new in school then, most of the time I've had students that have been tough. And I'm talking about students that were into drugs. I'm talking about students that were doing all of those things. But I got through to them. How? Because of this thing that I'm sharing. Of this thing I'm sharing. It's not deep. These are things I've experimented, I've tested and tried over the years. I remember there was a child that wanted to beat up 2 teachers in school. And immediately I stepped into school and he saw me. He just went down and prostrated and was saying, Mr. Omotosho, I'm sorry. Mr. Omotosho, I'm sorry. How did I get there? I was able to connect with these students. I was able to get down to their level. We discuss nitty-gritty. We discuss things that they cannot even share with their parents. Because they trust that Mr. Omotosho is out for my good. Do they trust you that much? They don't know that you are out for their good. You need to connect to them. Let them know that, look, this is not about anything. This is not about, it's about you. I am concerned about what you become. I'm concerned about how you become in future. Every child wants to become great in future. There is no child that wants to be a non-entity. There is no child. Even no matter how they are behaving right now, they still want to become something in future. A coach said something. He said, I make my students do what they don't want to do so that they can achieve what they want to achieve. I make them do what they don't want to do so that I can achieve what they want to achieve. A lot of them want to achieve great things. I thank God because of the kind of student that God has helped me to raise. And I've seen them different places in the world today doing great and mighty things. And I mean, my desire is to help other teachers to help to be able to connect. I know some of us are doing fantastic job, great job, right? But let's keep doing it. And for all of us that are learning something new, apply it. Let's quickly finish because time is not on our side. Time is not on our side. Create engaging lessons. The law of creativity. Sometimes your lessons are boring, and that's why they will act up. They will misbehave because your lessons too are boring. Class management is all about engaging them. Of course, they said that when the mind is not engaged, it becomes the devil's workshop, right? When the mind is not engaged, when there's nothing, let me look for something to distract. Let me look for something to do. So engage them. Let the class be so interesting that they don't have time for, their mind does not even think of negativity. Let their mind be so engaged that they are so involved in what you are doing. They are so interested in what you are doing. They are so invested in what you are doing. Ken Robinson, listen to this man. I listen a lot to him. He said creativity now is as important in education as literacy, and we should treat it with the same status. Creativity is as important as your literacy, as your numeracy. If you are not creative, yes, no child wants to be. Thank you. So if we are not creative with our classroom, we'll lose our students. We'll lose their mind. We'll lose them. And they, of course, when they are not engaged, a lot of them will just say, this teacher has come again. This teacher has come again. And then the next thing that they are doing is to look for a way to frustrate you out. And they know the best thing you will do is to bring your cane and flog them. And now, what have you achieved by doing that? Somebody said that the teacher that is trying to teach without inspiring the student first is like somebody that is trying to bend an iron without putting it in fire first. You have to put the iron in fire before you can bend it. The same with our students. You have to inspire them to want to learn. When you come to class like this, let them be looking, it's like super story. They are looking to the next edition. They are looking forward to the next episode because you put them in that suspense. You put that, the atmosphere is always charged. The atmosphere is always exciting. The atmosphere is always interesting. They don't want to leave. I remember there was a time I was teaching and students were leaving other classes to come and peek from the window because we engage them. Lessons are not just for the classroom. Take them to the world. Like I said, they want to see the reality of what the learning can do. Take them into the world. Take them into the world. And the last thing that I want to share, I know we've trained a lot of time. The last thing I want to share is treat all students with fairness and equity. The law of equity. The law of equity. Not equality. Not equality. Because every child deserves your unconditional love, regardless of their background, their challenges. Nothing should make you discriminate against any child. Discrimination will only fuel exclusion, resentment, and then build rebellion. Once your student begins to believe that you are discriminating against them, that is the beginning of rebellion. You will lose that child. One time, my student came to my office and asked me, who is your best student? Who is your best student? Which of us do you like the most? And I told them something very profound. And I wasn't doing it because I didn't even think about it. It is the truth. And I told them, I said, I love all of you the same way. I love all of you the same way. None of you, I don't like any one of you less than the other. And that's the truth. That's the truth. I have trained myself to love all my students the same way. I treat them with fairness and equity. But I told them something. I said, some of you will take advantage of me more than the others. It is now left to them. It is left to them. But for me, I will love them equally. Now, when do I say equity, not equality? Because you can't treat every one of them equally. They are not the same. Every child has their own challenges. And you must be able to relate to every child's challenges at their level. So equality is not the game. It's equity. Now look at this. Look at this diagram. Look at this. Compare this. Look at what equality is and look at what equity is. Look at the first picture here. Every one of them have the same height of stool. But is that what each one of them need? Definitely no, because this child is still here and cannot see anything that is happening. So if you treat all your students with equality, this child will misbehave because you are not carrying that child along. This is a simple display of what we call differentiation in your classroom. And these are key things that decide what the behavior of your children in class. These are key things that decide the behavior of your children in class. So treat them with equality. What does this child need? Let me tell you, there are some children that need more time from you, and you must be willing to give that more time. Not all of your students need more time. Not all of them need more time. There are some children. Look, let me give you an instance. And you must be able to carry your student along in this journey. Because if they don't understand, they may be beginning to think that, oh, maybe you are treating this person with preference. And that's why social emotional learning is key in our schools. Are your students also social emotionally sound? Do they understand when some things are being done? I have had to do that I've had to do that with my students, explaining to them why this is done this way because of this child. I don't believe that any child should be lost. I don't believe that any child should be thrown away. Yes, for sanity, sometimes you will have to, but the question I ask myself is that where do we throw this child to? To the same world that have actually disappointed or done this thing to this child in the first place? Then why are we there as still educators? Why are we there to save? We are there to save the day. We are there to save the day. We need to treat every child. Equality means everyone is treated the same exact way, regardless of their differences. But equity means everyone is provided with what they need to succeed. Provide each of your students with what they need to succeed. And when you do that, they will behave. When you do that, you catch their heart. When you do that, they know that you are looking out for their good. So you do less of control and management. You do less of control and management because at that time, you are disciplining, you are training. At that time, you are engaging that student. At that time, you are influencing that student. And then you can be able to get the heart of that child. Somebody said somebody said that the law of great teaching is the heart. The core of great teaching is the heart. It is the heart. Reach the heart. Reach the heart. Now, let me round up by saying this. A silent classroom is not always synonymous to a great classroom. The collaborative aspect of learning are important for building schema and understanding perspective other than your own. Too much silence can profoundly affect a learner's experience of your subject. Why am I saying this? Because sometimes when we talk about class management and class discipline, we sometimes mistake a very quiet class as a proper class. A quiet class may be a sign of the time, or it may be a sign that that class is not properly managed. It's just as if you have a terrorist in the class. Everybody keep quiet and listen to the terrorist talk, and they have nothing to contribute. There must be a web interaction in your class. There must be a web interaction in the class directed towards learning. So encourage communication and foster an environment where students feel comfortable asking questions, sharing ideas, engaging in discussions, and you will create a successful and thriving classroom. Let your class be somewhat a place where we have what we call web interaction. Web interaction. Not nobody speak when I speak. You shut up your mouth. No, you are not there as the law of the day. You are not there as the custodian of knowledge. You are there to facilitate learning. And when your students begin to connect with that, you will not have so much problem with your teenagers. You will not have so much problem with your teenagers. And even when it comes up, the next thing you begin to ask yourself is, how do I help? How do I help this child? I want to encourage you that you can do this. It is possible. You've got this. Thank you so much. If you have questions, comments, it will be welcome. Thank you very much. I draw the curtain on this.
Wow, Mr. Afolabi, this is superb. This is really mind-blowing. Please, if you have any question, like you said the other time, you can use the emoji to raise your hands up, or you can use the chat box. While we wait for that, I want to really commend today's section that it is really awesome. Remember when we wanted to start, I said that a lot of people feel that since it's not paid, they sometimes feel the value or the quality will not be as much as something that you have paid for. But you can all agree with me. I believe I'm not the only one in this ship that this is value packed section that we have had. Am I correct? Please, am I correct?
Yes. Yes, you are.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Folabi. All that you have said are really, really mind-blowing, and it calls for, reflection. I know that some of us must have been doing this before. Maybe we are doing it in a different way. At least it's making us see that what we are doing before is the right thing to do. Or, of course, we know that it's the right thing to do. I mean, it's still encouraging us to do it better or do it more. Sometimes when we have conversation like this, that's the essence, so that we don't feel too comfortable or we don't begin to lose the things that we do. Those things are really good. Thank you once again, Mr. Afolabi. The Change Makers group, like I said, it's a WhatsApp group of teachers. We are also on Facebook. We have a page on Facebook and on LinkedIn, where the only thing we do there is to share knowledge just like this, to share knowledge, ideas, innovations with ourselves. If you have anything that you want to share with the group members, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Maybe on the group, you can see my name as Oluwani Milo. You can reach out to me, or you can also reach out to Mr. Folabi, right? Don't hesitate. It's a platform where, when you learn something and you are willing, the more you teach that thing, the more you're grounded in it. And you are going to be influencing your sector in a very positive way. It's a law of expectation, if I'm correct. I saw that in one of the points Mr. Folabi said, talking about expectation, the positive expectation and all that. And I believe that together we will move the sector forward. Please, if you're on Changemakers group, kindly do well by putting out a comment, talking about this session, how you have enjoyed it, and one or two things that you've learned from today's section, so that you also encourage others the next time we are having something like this. And the next time we're having something like we are going back home, going back to our drawing board to cook something bigger. If you want to be part of this, please be active on the group. And you can again reach out to us to ask, okay, so what's going on? I would like to be part of it, because as long as you are a member of that group, the group belongs to you, it belongs to me, it belongs to everybody. And whatever we do there is for the progress of the group, most importantly, the progress of the education sector in Nigeria and the world as a whole. I don't know if anybody has dropped any question here. Again, I'm going to be sharing let me quickly share this thing.
I think I see a hand.
Okay, Mr. Falabi, while the hand is raised up, kindly share the YouTube link.
Okay, all right.
Okay? I think I've sent it to you.
Okay.
Thank you. So the person that is raising hands, or at least our hands, can talk.
Hey, Dance, you can talk.
Okay. Thank you very much for the teaching. It's quite expository, and I believe I have learned a lot, and I believe everyone has too. Now, I would like to ask a question. Okay. I used to teach in Lagos, but now in Abuja, I work with I teach a group of students who, if you visit them at home, you will realize that in their house they are like kings. Their fathers' staffs bow to them, greet them like they are kings. So they bring that same attitude into school, and they, so to say, let you know, they put it in your face as a teacher that, look, who are you? How much do you earn? Even a student once said to a teacher in that school that, okay, how much do you earn? Even my father's staff earn in hard currency and they bow to me. So who are you? Now, the question I want to ask is, how do you handle students like that? Because working in Abuja has made me believe it seems environment, so to say, dictates or um, has an impact on how the students perform in class, or how they see school, how they see their teachers, basically. So how do you handle a situation like that, such that because sometimes when you try to be friends with them, other teachers tend to look at you as you are encouraging their indiscipline, basically. So, but how do you handle a situation like that?
Thank you very much for that question. And I think that is one of the challenges that, there's a challenge you will experience in the public sector. There's a challenge you will experience in some schools of that nature. And one of the things that you said is towards the end that caught my attention. Other teachers will think you are encouraging. Now, but the other teachers that think that you're encouraging, what have they done differently? That's the question I always ask myself. What have they done differently? Now, I had similar experience with some group of students, and one of the things that one of them said one day while I was in class was that we were teaching, we were doing something different, and he just paused and said, "Mr. Motesho, you are not a teacher." And I said, "Why did you say that?" He said, "Look at you now, you are different from everybody. You are different from everybody. I said, "Look, how can you be a teacher? You are not a teacher." Now, reason is because your students must look up to you beyond the subject you teach. It even comes down to the way you dress, the way you carry yourself, the confidence level of yourself. There's a tendency, because you know where these children are coming from. I'm telling you, the kind of children I'm talking about, when I was going to get married, they bought me TV. I'm not talking about their parents. Students bought me TV. Some of them bought me my bed. They had this money. They could do that. The way we carry ourselves as teachers goes a long way to tell how the students also relate with us. I don't need to earn as much as they are earning, but they will look up to me. The way I carry myself, confidence must be written all over you. You shouldn't be looking, teachers sometimes too, we dampen our own self-esteem because we think that, oh, we are not earning up to them. Of course, we know that we are not earning up to them. Does not mean that you should. Because I say it even to their parents. Their parents will come to me and learn because this is my profession. If I go to their office, I go and learn. But if they come to my office, they are coming to learn. So when I sit and I talk, when we sit and we share, they know that ideas that I carry is beyond just the level of the teaching that I do. So they begin to look up to you. At the same time, you need to connect to them. When teachers are saying, you are okay, being their friend does not mean that you allow them to misbehave. Does not mean that you allow them to get away with things that they are not supposed to get away with. I had to work with you, and if I need to, the first thing is that when I call them together that way and we are sharing ideas, I am also inspiring them to know the right way to act and why they should act the way they should act. Because it is not just about telling, I'm not just laughing at with them and just doing high five with them. We are talking about life. I remember there was a particular child that I work with, and sometimes they will look up to teachers and they will talk. And what I do is that I just call them together and I will share stories. And they will sit down and listen to the stories. We'll talk about why this thing should not be like this. I don't need to shout and punish. Why do you need to should not be like this? Eventually, when that child got to US and he was in school, he sent me a message and said, "Mr. Montesho, thank you for those times that you called us together and shared these things with us. These are things that I'm using to live my life here now." And he was doing well. He was on this list in the US of it. He said something. He said, "I wish every teacher was like you when I was in secondary school. My secondary school would have been a paradise. My secondary school would have been a paradise." You see, we don't need to fight what we cannot fight. You can't change the fact that they have money more than you. You can't change that fact for now. But that does not mean that you will now put yourself under because of them, or you will now count everything that they do as against you. You must know how to be confident in where you are. The way you dress also matters. Dress well, look good, so that when they see you, you know, when your students look at you and they say, ah, Mr. Cadence, you're looking good today, it's a sign of they are seeing it. You know, let me tell you something. When your students are looking down on you and they are thinking that even our teachers cannot afford to take themselves out. Look, when I said your first thing is self-care, sometimes take yourself out. That expensive restaurant that you are looking like you cannot go, take yourself out to that place one day. Just go there. Just enjoy. Imagine you come to school with some kind of things where they eat as well. You come into school with that thing, and they say, Mr. Keda, you bought this thing and all of that. They're like, because they feel that you cannot afford it. They feel you cannot afford it. You are not taking care of yourself enough sometimes. Self-care, first thing. When you begin to take care of yourself and they begin to see that aura, they begin to see that confidence on you, they begin to look up to you. It's not about money. It's not about your money. It's about your courage. It's about your level of confidence too. When they see you also the way you jump around their parents, they will say, oh, this man that's always jumping. Don't jump around any parents. If parents come, let them come, and you are professional in the way you deal with them. In the way you talk with them, you are professional. You know what you are doing. You know your onions. When they see that with you, they begin to have a sense of respect for you, not just because of your money, but because of what you carry, because of your intelligence. Somebody said to me this thing, and I held on to that. He said, your superpower as a teacher is your knowledge, not your money. Your superpower as a teacher is your knowledge. Have that. And I'm not talking about knowledge based on just your subject, but I'm talking about knowledge based on generality of life. When they need help and you are the one that they run up to, they know that there's something you carry. I have students that have graduated, yes, and there's one of my students in Germany, when he was thinking about a business plan to do in Nigeria, who was the first person he called? He called me first. I am thinking about this business plan. What do we need to do? I sat down with him and I worked on that business plan with him. Why will he come to me for business plan? But I was just a teacher. I have given some of my students business plan that they took home and their parents bought it. And their parents bought it because my intelligence and my idea is beyond just teaching. When you carry those things and your students begin to look up to you, when they have problems, you are the one that they come to first. They will never disrespect you. But sometimes we kill that thing, thinking that they are rude and all of that. Forget about their rude. You put yourself in the place that they will look up to you first. Become that inspiration leader, not just their subject teacher. We need to change that mindset sometimes. That mindset is beclouding what we can do as teachers in influencing our students. They did not come to the school knowing that you are richer than their parents in the first place. They never came into the school knowing that they are richer than their parents in the first place. So they never expected you to be richer. But it's the way we carry ourselves. I have worked with students that have business in themselves. I have worked with a student that the parent will come when he was a director in his father's company. When they need to sign, expatriate will come to school for the child to sign. Can I change that? Even though sometimes you can say, okay, the parents should know better, but you can't change that now. But that doesn't mean that child will look down on me. That doesn't mean that child will not look up to me, because there are other things that they need help to, that their parent cannot even help them. They will walk up to me. I am the help that they need. I am the solution to their problem. When they begin to see you that way, they know that you are not just an ordinary teacher. You carry something greater and bigger than just their teachers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Afolabi. If we leave Mr. Afolabi, we go on and on and on and on. So, in addition to what Mr. Afolabi has said briefly, he has said two things I want to say. When you're doing something good, take note of the word good, and your colleagues are complaining, or you know this way teachers can be, just know that you need to keep doing that thing as long as it's good. Sometimes you might do something bad or something that is not good. You should also listen and reflect and try to check what is it they are complaining about. But if it is good, please keep at doing it, because you are not them. You're different from the rest. I tell my teachers that at the end of the day, how many heads do we need? We need fewer heads compared to the number of teachers that we want. You want to, I'm not saying you because you want to be the head, but you want to break the jinx. You want to go out of status quo. I mean, you want to grow in your career. You have to do things differently. You cannot help these children if you don't connect with them. Like Mr. Motesha said, it is none of your business with the money. It is the way teachers carry themselves. Even if I cannot afford certain things, but you know that my head knowledge is there, and I understand I cannot wear Fendi or I cannot wear Balenciaga, but I can dress neat and smart. And even if you see me, you appreciate what I have won. And the second one is the way we carry ourselves in the presence of their parents. Some of us, if we see parents that we know that these ones are well-to-do, they can afford it, we throw ourselves at them. And this parent, they cannot help it. They need our help, like Mr. Moses said. That's how they brought their children to school. And in the presence of their children at home, they'll be saying, what's wrong with this, your teachers, this, your teachers. So they are already, it is the way the teachers are throwing themselves at the student. Mind you, this student, they know who is really helping them. They know who has the value that they need. They know. Even some of them that their parents are not rich, they try to size teachers up and they see who you are and they treat teachers as such. I believe that with what Mr. Motesha said, and maybe from something that I have also said now, maybe we can pick one or two things. However, let's keep at doing what you know that you know how to do best. As a teacher, you also need God. The God factor is also really important. Why am I saying this? Because you need the spirit of discernment. You need to be able to discern what is right from what is bad. You need to be guided sometimes. So it is not like you have the manual somewhere, but you need all this help that is beyond human. I don't know how to say it. So is there any other person raising up their hands? Mr. Motesha has already shared the link. Who is raising their hands again?
No
Mr.
answer.
Motesha.
No,
No
there's
hands
no
up.
answer.
Okay, so please try to put a word on the group about today's session, and the link to this session has been shared with us. You can also catch up on that. Thank you very much. My name is Shola Diola Sojibra, and our facilitator for this evening is Mr. Afolabi Omotayo. You can also check us out on LinkedIn if you have not been following us, to stay connected. Thank you, and do have a great evening. Bye.
All right, thank you so much. Bye. The opportunity.
Thank you, Ma.
Thank you, Mr. Afolabi. Mr. Afolabi, please.
Yeah.
You will be the one to
Yes.
drop the call. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.